Welcome to the podcast, Let the Prophet Speak. Today, we are going to continue our study of the book of Joshua, of Yehoshua, and we are going to read chapter 3 together, which is the famous chapter of the drying up of the Jordan River, the passage of the Jordan River into the land. The episode of the people passing into the Jordan River has, of course, conjures up images of the similar but also very different event of the splitting of the Red Sea as the Jews were leaving Egypt. Just on the surface, the similarities are obvious. The Jewish people, the people of Israel, needed to pass through a body of water, which was an obstacle on their journey, and God performed a miracle, which enabled them to pass through the water on dry land. That's just about where the similarity ends. That's an important similarity, but sometimes when things look very much the same on the surface, the most meaning is to be found by looking into the differences of how they are presented, how they occurred, and what messages we can glean from those differences. So, some of them we will mention as we read through the verses, but others I want to point out that are just obvious from the nature of the story, the nature of where the people stood in their history, and some lessons that will also help us understand the significance of the process that is unfolding in the book of Joshua itself and in all of the subsequent books that we are going to be reading and studying together, many of which we have studied together already as we continue our path through the prophets. So let me just mention a few things. First of all, when the people left Egypt, you have to think about this, right? When the people left Egypt, the Egyptians were chasing them. The people were sandwiched between the mighty Egyptian army and the sea. They were desperate. They were just coming out of slavery and still with that slave mentality, complaining to Moses, let's just go back to Egypt. You know, the very different mindset, and also the people were escaping slavery and basically on their way to wander into a wilderness. They had no idea where their destination was going to be, what was going to happen. They were just, blindly following Moshe and God, and there was nowhere to go. And then God performed this miracle when they were backed up against the water, and even in the water they were, surrounded by the sea, scared at every moment. A very different type of circumstance. Here, the people have just been triumphant in battle against the Amorite kings Sihon and Og. They had just conquered a tremendous amount of territory. The people in the land in front of them, across the river, are afraid of them and are awaiting attack, scared and frightened and demoralized. The people have a destination, they have a mission, they know where to go, and it's not so clear even that this miracle is necessary. Clearly it was possible to cross the river with proper planning without a miracle, even though, as we'll see soon, the miracle was full, the river was full and rushing at the season of the year, but still, we see the spies got across. Yes, it's small numbers, it would have taken time, but an army can cross the Jordan River. There's ways to do it. They can cross even the Red Sea, but the circumstances at the time, backed up between the Egyptian army and the sea, there was no choice, and a miracle had to happen. Here, it was no desperate situation, and the people are confident, ready to move and march forward. So those are just differences, and think about those circumstances. But I want to mention one other thing before we read the chapter, and that is that the people, as they're entering under the leadership of Joshua, and as we saw, especially in chapter 1, they want to feel reassured that God is still with them. Under Moshe, in the wilderness and during the Exodus, God was explicitly and openly with them. And the impetus for this was of God Himself. God Himself made the miracles happen. There was a lot less intervention from the human beings below. And just as I was just explaining, the situation was dire. God made a miracle, split the sea, the Jews walked through the sea. What we're going to find is there's a gradual process here that is beginning, that even though in Joshua we're going to see in this chapter and in subsequent chapters miracles that God overtly performs for the Jews as they conquer the land of Canaan and make it their own home, the miracles require a lot more on the part of the people. There's a lot more involvement of the human beings, and you get the sense that God is beginning to retreat from His open presence in this world, His open appearance. God is kind of leading up to what seems like the march that continues throughout the entire Torah, throughout the entire books of the prophets. There's this gradual and sometimes not so gradual retreat of God behind the veil of heaven, so to speak. And so in the book of Joshua, we'll find these miracles, but we'll find that God wants more from us. God wants more from human beings. And eventually we get to what we find and what we just read together in the book of Nehemiah and Nehemiah, all the way at the end of this process that is recorded in Tanakh, but of course the process of history continued afterwards, where we find no more miracles, no more prophecy, and God has fully retreated behind that veil. And you get the sense that the lesson that God wants to teach us throughout this entire book, through everything we learn in the Torah and in the prophets and in the writings in Tanakh, that the message of the Bible is that was the point all along. God had to reveal Himself in the beginning to make Himself known, but that wasn't the way He wanted the world to work, so to speak. He wanted to be behind that veil. He wanted to leave it in human hands. But the other lesson that we're going to learn is that despite the fact that we don't see Him behind that veil, despite the fact that we go through our lives and don't see the kind of justice that we look for, we don't see God smite the evil out of out of this world as soon as they perform evil and reward good people as soon as we don't see that, but it's still there. It's just not something that we see. That process, that march, is beginning with Joshua. Ironically, it's beginning with miracles, but we see in those miracles they're a little different than they used to be. And I want you to pay attention to this, because this is going to be repeated throughout the book of Joshua, and we're going to come back to this as we march through the subsequent books. Now that I put that out there, let's start with chapter 3, verse 1. Vayashkem Yoshua baboker. Joshua woke up in the morning, Vayis'u mehashitim, and he traveled from the place where he was, Shittim. The people traveled along under the leadership of Joshua, Vayavo ad Yarden, and they camped along the banks of the Jordan River. He, B'chol b'nei Yisrael, and all the people of Israel, Vayalinu sham, and they rested there overnight, Terem Yavoru, before they actually crossed the Jordan. Vayhi miktei shloshet yomim. It was so they did this for 3 days, camping out on the banks of the Jordan, preparing for their passage. Vayavru hashotrim mikerav hamachna. After 3 days, the leaders, the officers, went throughout the camp and proclaimed the following message. Vayetzavu et ha'am lemor, they commanded the people as follows: Kirotchem eit aron brit Adonai Elohechem. When you see the ark with the ark which represents and contains within it the Torah, right, and the tablets, which is a sign of the covenant between you and the Lord your God, v'hakohanim halavim nosim oto, and the priests who are of the tribe of Levi are carrying the ark. V'atem tis'u mimkomchem. When you see that, you need to get up from your place. V'halachtem machrav, and follow after the ark. So we're being led by the ark. So the people are seeing that it is God that is leading them. But important, keep that in mind, because that's going to change in a moment, representing what I was trying to explain before. However, when you follow after the ark, rachok yeh beinechem uveinav, make sure there's a distance between you and the ark, alpayim amo b'amida, approximately 2,000 cubits. a cubit being approximately 1.5 feet. So 2,000 cubits would be about 3,000 feet. So that's a significant distance. Of course, as soon as we mention 2,000 cubits, those familiar with Talmudic law are familiar that is the area considered what one is considered the place where a person is in regarding the laws of Shabbat. That on the Sabbath, that you're only allowed to stay within the place where you reside over Shabbat. You're not supposed to travel distances that 2,000 amot. And of course, the commentaries mention that might have been part of the reason for this, because the ark being that distance allows the people, should they stop and it be Shabbat, that they're able to still go to the ark to learn, to study, and from it. Now, the point is, though, al tikruvu elav, do not be too close to the ark. In other words, there has to be a distance between you and this which represents the relationship between you and God. And leman, why is it that there should be a distance? Leman asher teidu et haderech asher telchu ba, in order that you should know the road upon which to go. Now, some explain that in order this leman, this is going back on the previous verse. Some of the commentaries, like Rashi and Mitsudo, say this, that it doesn't mean that you need to have a 2,000 amma distance. It means you follow the ark in order that you should know the way. The Radak also adds that it's important there be a distance, because when you're following directly after it, it can get confusing and jumbled. But if you're able to see the way the ark goes from a distance, then you say, oh, that's the path that it took, and then the people take that path. Because this is a path which you are not familiar with. While I almost always emphasize the simple meaning of the verse, which is the way I just read it, I would like to go out of the realm of pshat, to the realm of simple meaning for just a moment, because I think this verse is also hinting and representing something else, and that is that this is a new road that you're about to take. This distance represents the distance that there will be between God and the people. You need to be able to look from a distance and see God is there, God is here, God is leading the way, that is the path, that is where we should go. However, there's a distance. We're not going to see it so clearly. It's not going to be so easy to see. And that is the new road that you did not go mitmol shel shalom yesterday. Yesterday, you saw God in the pillar of cloud. Yesterday, you saw God in the manna that fell every day. Yesterday, you saw God at Sinai. You saw God at the crossing of the Red Sea. But now, soon, there's going to be a distance, and you need to get used to this new way. Vayomer Yoshua el ha'am, and Joshua said to the nation, Hiskadashu, make yourselves holy. Presumably, this means to immerse. Because tomorrow God is going to do wonders among you. It's still important, though. Joshua picks up right away that people are now afraid. You're making a distance between us and God. How do we live this way? Can we handle it? Joshua says, don't worry, God is still with you. He's still going to do wonders. In other words, he will not yet recede completely behind that veil. And Joshua said to the priest, saying as follows: Su'u et Aron HaBris, carry the Ark of the Covenant, the Ivru lifnei ha'am, and pass before the nation. Vayesu et Aron HaBris, vayechu lifnei ha'am, and they carried the Ark of the Covenant, and they went in front of the nation. Vayomer Adonai el Yehoshua. This is verse 7. And God said to Joshua, Hayom hazeh, today, Ochel Gadelcha, I am going to begin making you great, Beinei Kol Yisrael, in the eyes of all of Israel. Now Joshua has already had a significant career of leadership before the people. They knew him already. But God is saying, now they're going to see that you're really the guy. You're the leader, and they'll see that you are a great leader, and you will have the opportunity to really prove yourself. Asher Yedu'on, because I will do another miracle, and they will know now, Ki kasher Yisihim Moshe Eimach, that just like I was with Moses, I am with you as well. So this is very important. God is reassuring Joshua that miracles will still happen. I'm not totally retreating. And I want you to command the Kohanim, the priests, Nosei Aron HaBrit Le'emar, those that carry the Ark of the Covenant, saying as follows: when they come to the edges of the waters of the river Jordan, by Yarden ta'amodu, I want them to stand in the river. In other words, as soon as they get there, they have to go into the water a little and then stop. Vayomer Yoshua b'nei Yisrael, and Joshua said to the people of Israel, I'm at verse 9, Go shuheina, come closer now. V'shimu et divrei Adonai Elohechem. I want you to listen to the words of God. Now he's telling them, come close. Before he told them, distance yourself. Now he's telling them, come close. This is that process. There's a closeness, but there's a distance. This is the beginning of separating the people from the lives that they lived beforehand. Vayomer Yehoshua, and Joshua said, Bezos te'de'un. This is how you're going to know ki el chai b'kirbechem, that there is a living God among you. V'horesh yorish mipneichem, and that He will. It's a hard word to translate, but I see the word dispossess in front of you. Which I'll use that translation. Et hakanani ve'et hachiti ve'et achivi ve'et haprizi ve'et hagirgashi ve'et hamori ve'hayivusi. These 7 nations that you're about to encounter, God will get them out of the land and put you in their place. This is how you're going to know it. Hine Aaron habrit adon kol haaretz over lifnechem bayarden. Look at the Ark of the Covenant. This is the covenant that we have with the Master of all of the land. That is what is passing before you in the Jordan. So here, Joshua, there's so much being said here. What is the bezos te'du'on? This is how you're going to know. Joshua is giving them the lesson here. There is a living God among you who is going to fight with you. And how do you know? You'd think he'd say because he's going to perform this miracle. But he says, because the ark goes before you. And the ark that you're distant from goes before you. In other words, the way you're going to know that God is with you is a very different way than it used to. Keep the image of the ark in front of you and remind yourself that this is a symbol that represents that God is with you. He's going in front of you into battle even when you don't see Him. Joshua is teaching the people, there's something new here, there's something different, and this is what you need to learn. And now, I want you to take 12 men, Mishiftei Yisrael, ish echad l'shavet, one person representing each tribe. And this is very important because the last time that we had one person representing each tribe, it ended in disaster, right? It was when they sent the 12 spies, one of which was Joshua, and he was one of the only ones who didn't go along with the bad plan. But the last time 12 men representing the tribes crossed into Israel, it ended up into a big disaster. But Joshua knows now it's a different story. Now the people are with God. The people are using the Ark of the Covenant as a symbol of their relationship with God and the guide for where they're going and where they're heading. It's a whole different ballgame. So, and what do you do? As soon as the feet of the priests place their feet, Nosei Aaron Adonai, those that are carrying the Ark of God, Adon Kol Haaretz, the Master of the entire world. Again, Joshua uses this language of the Master of the entire world to emphasize and remind the people that your God is not just the Ark. You're looking at the Ark, right? Idol worshippers look at arks or statues or whatever and think that that's a representative of something. Joshua is reminding them, when you look at this ark, don't think that ark is somehow inherently powerful. It's what that ark represents. He keeps reminding us that it's the Aron Berit, it's the ark that represents the covenant between God and the people. But God is powerful because He's the master of the entire world. He's the creator of all and everything. Remember that you are not like the other nations. You are not like the people you are about to engage in combat, right? You are not like them. You are different because you have the Adon Kol Haaretz with you, the God of all of the world. When you see that ark in the waters of the Jordan, being held by the Kohanim who place their feet in the water, and I'm telling you now that the waters of the Jordan will split. What's going to happen? The water coming from they will stop. In other words, not so much they will split, but they will stop. The water that's coming from above, will stand in a big pile. So the water will pile up and stop. The water down below will continue to flow until it's gone and dry up. And it happened that when the people traveled from their tents, to pass over the Jordan, and the priests, and the priests, those that are carrying the the ark that represents the covenant were before the nation. And when the carriers of the ark reached the Jordan, and the feet of the priests that carrying their ark were dipped slightly in the edge of the water. This is the harvest season, and during this season, the Jordan River was full on all its sides. It was overflowing banks. It was full. And immediately the water coming down from above stopped as one giant pile of water. Very far away from where they were. Somewhere, this roughly corresponds to about 20 kilometers, I think, based on our modern understanding of where these place names are. May Adam Ha'ir, at the city of Adam, which is north of the place where they were. Hashem Mitzad Tzarton, the Adam which is near the place of the town of Tzarton. The Hayordim, and those waters that were going down, Al Yam Ha'arava, that were going down to the sea of the Arava, which is the Yam HaMelach, the Dead Sea, because that's where the Jordan's outlet is. Tamu Nikrasu. They just kept going down and ended there in the sea. But the place where they passed was opposite Jericho, which is about 20 kilometers south of the city of Adam, where the water had piled up. And the priests that were carrying the ark that represents the covenant of God were standing in dry land, inside the Jordan, Hachain. They were standing there smack in the middle. And all of the people of Israel passed through on dry land until the entire nation completed Lavor Tayardin, passing through the Jordan. We are going to this ends chapter 3. The way the Jewish chapters end, the next verse is split in half, and half of it is part of the chapter we just read. So I'll do that. And it was when the entire nation finished passing the Jordan. That's the end of it. And then this is the beginning of chapter 4. Vayomer Adonai el Yeshua lemor, God said to Joshua as follows. So I just attached that. We'll go over that again when we read the next one. There's a lot of ideas that I introduced. We're going to go deeper into these ideas and show how they are part and parcel of the story and the lessons to be learned from this book of Joshua as we proceed through the remaining chapters. Thank you so much for studying together chapter 3. Looking forward to studying chapter 4 together with you.